Get it out of here.
Okay, thank you. I'm wanting to ask some questions on the Auditor-General's reports on the Tasmanian Forestry Grants program and the Senate inquiry that was conducted under that, and the efforts being taken to investigate the claims of fraud and non-compliance under that. So interested in knowing how much has the department spent investigating, auditing or reviewing the compliance of the Tasmanian forestry exit grants?
Senator, we'd have to take that on notice. We don't have the details of what it's cost to date with us.
Okay. How many staff are involved in the process?
Senator Sally Standen, Assistant Secretary, Sustainable Agriculture Branch. Senator, I would have to take that on notice. I do not know the exact numbers, but I will say that there are a number of different areas of the department that are involved, including the grants administration program, the policy area of the department, as well as the fraud and security team.
So we're talking about quite a few staff being involved.
I couldn't speculate as to exactly how many. I would have to take it on notice.
Okay, if you could, that'd be good. So what has the review process involved so far?
Senator, in relation to the two particular forestry exit grant programs that my branch administers, there's matters relating to certain allegations that have been made in relation to some recipients of those grants. Separately, there are also ongoing monitoring and compliance activities that we undertake in the branch to ensure the ongoing compliance with the funding deeds. So
has the review process so far, has it gone beyond just doing reviews on paper of what's been going on?
If I'll turn to the monitoring and compliance activities first, Senator. There's two streams to those. The first is a requirement of grantees to declare on a yearly basis that they are compliant, and there's also on-the-ground compliance activities as well, where officers do make site visits. In relation to fraud allegations, any allegations that are made are investigated by the department's fraud and security team, and if warranted, we also work through legal processes as well.
So with these current claims of fraud and the one fraud and two non-compliance, have you conducted any interviews or forensic accounting?
In relation to the fraud, the one fraud allegation that is still outstanding, that's a matter. That's a matter of. It's an investigation that's ongoing, and I'm not able to comment further on it.
Have you contracted any private investigators to be investigating it the same way Centrelink does for cases of fraud?
Senator, I can take that on notice, but my understanding is no.
And have any of your officers visited Tasmania to investigate or conduct interviews?
Senator, we have a contracted Oz Industry through the Department of Industry to undertake compliance activities, and they, on our behalf,
Can you give me any more details as to what the compliance activities that they are undertaking are?
In terms of the actual details, Senator, I'll take that on notice.
So you don't know them?
I don't have the information at hand.
Okay. Can you name the business that you were investigating for fraud?
No, Senator, I can't.
Perhaps elaborate on the nature and the financial size of this fraud?
No, Senator, I can't.
Okay.
Can I just support that position? I mean, we have to be, as a committee, very careful that we don't interfere with any legal proceedings. And absolutely it's a no-go zone.
Okay, well, moving on to the non-compliance, can you elaborate? I mean, fraud, people understand what it is. Non-compliance is rather vaguer. Can you give us some ideas of, what is it? What is the non-compliance that is being investigated?
Non-compliance could be a range of things. Quite often in these circumstances, non-compliance could be as simple as not returning a declaration of their compliance with the program on time, or it could be that, and that it could be circumstances such as they have changed address. We haven't got a record of their changed circumstances. So there's some quite simple non-compliance matters such as that, which we can generally pretty easily fix up.
And what are the more serious measures?
At the other end, we need to examine the more serious non-compliance issues to determine whether or not they have to be more fully investigated.
So what are some of the more serious? What could the more serious non-compliance issues be? I mean, are they? You know, what is it? Are they rorting units? You know, how serious is this?
Senator, a non-compliance is not fraud. Non-compliance could mean that they are not complying with the terms of their funding deed. If the matters are to the extent that we think they may actually be fraudulent in nature, then we will investigate further. But in the first instance, we attempt to work with the grantee to overcome that non-compliance, so they become compliant.
Can you give me some idea of what the financial size, you know, implicit in this non-compliance is? There were grants that were issued and they're non-compliant with the conditions of the grant. What sort of?
I couldn't go into any details, Senator, here and now, because I would have to make guesses without having the actual situations, the actual circumstances in front of me.
Individual grant sizes were quite varied in size, Senator. So
what could it have been up to? What were some of the largest ones?
Okay, Senator, I can provide you with that information. Under the Tasmanian Forest Contractors Exit Assistance Program, which is running until 2016, the average grant was around just over 580,000.
That's quite a lot of money.
With the Tasmanian Forest Intergovernmental Agreement Voluntary Exit Grants Program, which is running until 2022, the average was around $733,000. And within that, there is a range of between 3 million and 20,000. So that's in quite a wide range.
So given these are meant to be exit grants, they're very substantial amounts of money given to people to exit the industry. The fact that they're not non-compliant is, yes, I mean, a very substantial and significant issue.
As Ms Standard said, though, many cases of non-compliance are actually non-compliance with the process as well. So it's incomplete information on documentation or delays in time. So quite a number of the non-compliance, the sorts of things can be sorted out without going to fraud. But as we say, we do take all fraud.
You can't give us any detail of the significance of these non-compliance in these two cases that are being investigated at the moment.
Not here and now, Senator, no.
It's a bit of a worry. I mean, because it reflects on all contractors. There are obviously a few bad eggs, but it means that everyone is being tainted with you know, no one knows who it is.
Well, Senator, changing your address and not having the information provided to the department and then going on to call that a bad egg, I think, you might want to cast an aspersion on the forest industry and the players within it. That's fine. But
no, I know that most of them aren't.
And in fact, you probably demonstrate a reason why, apart from not wanting to jeopardise any action that we might take, that we're cautious about providing information in this matter.
And Senator, I should just clarify, there's one allegation of fraud that we are continuing to investigate, so there's been no confirmation one way or the other.
When do you think these investigations will be completed?
I'm not able to advise. They're legal processes. They just need to take their time.
Are there any more non-compliance notices that have been issued other than these two that we've been made aware of?
Senator, at this point in time, my understanding is no. But the compliance activities are constant and ongoing. So from time to time, grantees could possibly find themselves non-compliant, in which case we will then work with them to ensure that they remain compliant.
What's the penalty for non-compliance?
There's no penalty, Senator.
So even though they've received a very substantial amount of taxpayers' money, they're not complying with the conditions of that grant, there's no penalty?
Senator, non-compliance doesn't mean that they're not entitled to the grant. So
what does it mean? You said that there were the less serious issues of non-compliance, but then there are more serious issues of non-compliance.
That's right, Senator, but I can't elaborate further on what action we would take in terms of those more serious non-compliant.
But you're saying that there's still no penalty?
Well, if some of the non-compliance were as trivial as we failed to get notification of their change of address on time and that's resolved, that wouldn't cause any disturbance under their deeds. I haven't looked carefully at the deeds, but normally with contracts, as you move through the extent of non-compliance, breach notices can be issued, and depending on the magnitude and significance of that, there may well be some penalties. We'd have to take on notice what they are, but fraud becomes a deliberate deception. If someone has just failed to do something because something has happened, it may be a breach which results in some other sort of condition under the deed. But if we could come back on what the terms of the deed are in general, but not in the specific cases, because we're not trying to breach their privacy, particularly with their allegations rather than necessarily proven cases.
Yep, the terms of the deed, if you could take that on notice, that would be good. What legal advice have you sought in relation to this fraud and non-compliance?
Senator, I can't elaborate on that.
The legal handling of these runs through our Office of General Counsel, which are sort of our internal solicitors who handle these cases on our behalf when it comes to legal processes under our deeds and contracts. So,
okay. I mean, what sort of investment in those legal services then is being made?
We'd be one of many users of the department's internal legal services, so I couldn't separate out. Possibly the Office of General Counsel do keep track of how much time each part of the department occupies of their staff's time, but it would be part of one person at most.
And also, Senator, we can take on notice any additional legal advice we've sought from outside the department.
And are you looking at any increased investment into the future? You've got ongoing grant schemes to, or are you satisfied with the level of monitoring that you're currently doing?
Well, we're currently undertaking a review of our compliance and monitoring activities. It's a desktop review. It'll be completed around July this year, and we may well, as a result of that review, consider increasing on-the-ground compliance activities.
So, going back to that, so what level of on-the-ground compliance activities do you do at the moment?
As I said, we've contracted Oz Industry to undertake those activities. I can provide you with details of that.
Do you know how much time do they spend?
I don't have that information in front of me, Senator. I'll have to provide that on notice.
Okay. And how do you find out whether, in terms of that monitoring and what that monitoring activities, do you send out letters to the grant applicants or what's the usual way of contacting them as to whether they're complying with the conditions of the grants?
Yes, Senator. Usually, as I mentioned right at the start, grantees are required to make a yearly declaration that they're compliant with the terms of their deeds, and we request that declaration in writing.
Right, and what sort of response rate do you get? How many haven't been compliant with that aspect?
Senator, at the moment, for the current declarations, I understand we've got over 70% have complied so far, but they have until, I believe, around about the end of May.
Oh, that's 3 days' time or something. So
That's correct, but so far.
And so what will the follow-up process be?
The follow-up process will be through letters and phone calls.
Okay.
Senator, the other thing we do, as with any program, we may receive phone calls or letters of complaint or allegation. They're all investigated initially at the level of following up with the person of what evidence they have, and is there something substantive that can be investigated, and if there is evidence provided, then that will be handed over to our fraud and investigation team to take further, and they'd follow that through in terms of the same sort of process they apply to any other of our compliance activities in the department.